When I was a child at a boarding school, I was about 4 years old, I was told that because I was Native American and because I was part Irish, that I was a heathen and a sinner and that I would be going to hell. And part of their help for me was to educate me about the ways of God. What I learned instead was fear of Him, frightened, and I couldn't imagine why the color of my skin and the fact that I'm Native American would, why would God select this type of people to put into hell? And so I was fearful all my life. I was fearful of dying. I didn't particularly believe that God was the God that they were teaching, but I didn't know who God was. And it was frightening, very frightening for me. But that was just, that wasn't something that led my life. I think I pushed that into the subconscious mind and just got on with living. And um, I had a low self esteem, low self worth, all the things that come with child abuse. And so at the age of 31, I had married young and had 7 children. It was very frightening to me to go through that experience um, of life, just growing up. But I wanted a family that I could be with forever, and so I married and had my children, raised them the way that I wanted to raise them. I actually took them and put them into churches, only to become disillusioned and take them out because they were told that they were sinners and had to get on their knees, and they're like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, just babies. And when they came back and told me what they had to spend time on their knees begging God for forgiveness, that just did it for me and religion. Um, at the age of 31, I went into the hospital to have a hysterectomy. And it was during that time, first time I'd ever had any surgery or anything at all. I'm fairly healthy woman, have always been healthy. Went into the hospital. I hemorrhaged during the surgery and right shortly after. And they had staff problems, and there were a few nurses that were around. They told me that I was fine after the surgery, except for a slight hemorrhage that they had repaired, and bedded me down for the night. I awoke, and I felt myself dying. Actually, you just feel this sick feeling, and I knew something was wrong, but I was too weak to call for the nurse. And the next thing I knew, I was out of my body. I went up to the ceiling and turned to look down, and I could see myself laying there. I came down for a closer look, and I wasn't frightened. I was amazed at what I saw. Um, and shortly thereafter, 3 men in brown robes and golden belts appeared by the side of the bed. I knew them, but it was taking me a while to really recognize them. But I knew I was comfortable with them, and they said that I had died prematurely, but that everything would be okay. I was worried about my family. I wanted to go home and see them. And so I went out, my spirit went out through the window, and I arrived at my home. My husband was sitting in a chair reading a newspaper. The kids were running all over the place. He had promised to put them to bed early, and he didn't. But I knew that they would be fine. And I could see into each one of their lives, and I knew that they would grow up and that they would be fine. It was okay to leave them. I went back to the hospital bed and started traveling down into a tunnel-like effect, just spiraling down it. I mean, it was moving. I came to a dark place, very dark, very black. I love to camp and have gone camping a lot. And when you're in the middle of the forest, especially in the state of Washington, where the trees are, oh my goodness, they're so tall. When you're in the middle of them, you don't see the sky at night. It's pitch black. Well, it was pitch black in this space, but I felt no fear. And I have claustrophobia. So it was challenging for me, even in that moment, to think, I have no fears. I'm not frightened of this black. In fact, I felt like I was being bathed in love. It was warm and beautiful. It was, I've often said, if I didn't know what was beyond this blackness, I would have wanted to stay there forever. I could live eternity in that space, but it didn't last for long. And there I saw a pinpoint of light that became brighter and brighter. It was almost like a searchlight. It moved around a bit, not a lot, but just a little bit, where I was watching it, and then it focused on me. And as it focused on me, it broadened. But more than that, it drew me out of that blackness. But when I came to the end of that light, and the light was brighter than ever, it just widened, and it turned, there was a being in the light, and I could see the shape and the outline, but the light was so bright. I knew that this was Jesus, and I knew that I loved him, and that I had always known him, perhaps for eternities as well. And then what surprised me as I thought back about on it, when I'm going through the process, there was no thinking. It was just responding in a very natural, normal way to this beautiful man that I knew that I had known forever. So it would be like dying and meeting your mother or your father, and you run to them to embrace them. And that's what I did with him. And I ran to him. And as I ran to him, he opened his arms to receive me in them. And we embraced. And I said, why did you send me to earth? Why did you send me down there? I never, ever, ever want to go there again. And I said, much less send me down to become an Indian and an Irish person who was criticized and condemned for everything you think of. And I just ranted and raved. I was just irritated. He chuckled. He leaned back and he was amused. And I thought at the time, how could he be amused at something when I feel so irritated, even angry about? And he said, but you chose it. I said, I did. He says, yes, you did. He said, every spirit here is at a different level of growth, every one. And each one is on earth to be tested, to test with their growth that they have acquired thus far. And he said, and you chose to go down to the family that would give you the greatest challenges. I said, wow, I don't think I would do that now. He said, you probably wouldn't have to. And he went on, and he just, and as he spoke, it wasn't even words. It was more like he was speaking to my heart, because it resonated in me. I mean, everything, every thought, every feeling. It was wonderful, beautiful. I can't even tell you. I'm resisting breaking out in tears even now, because the glory of this experience cannot be put into words. First off, well, actually, that's kind of the third thing. The first is to learn to love one another. And that's what Jesus said to me. The last I saw him, I said, how am I going to share all this? He says, the most important thing is learn to love one another, and all else will be fine. And so putting God first, love God, love one another, and freedom from fear, so you can grow your spirit and be the person that you mapped out. It's a blueprint you made yourself to be. And there are few, if any, coincidences in anyone's life. They're just not. And we are co-creators with God. Every day we get up and we create our day. Every day. You know, in the native way, if you're going down a path and you see that you're going down the wrong way, stop and turn around. Stop and turn around. It's that simple. Why keep trying to go that same way when you're offbeat or it's not doing it? Don't go that way. Turn around and come back, go in another direction. And that's what the freedom of life is all about. You'd be surprised. I mean, it's next year, I will celebrate 50 years having had that experience. Years. I have given my life to embrace my light. Why? I want others to feel like what I feel. First, the glory of God. Second, freedom to live, freedom to explore, freedom just to live righteously and purely as you can, and not necessarily in the structure of any sort of religion except for faith in God. And I remember thinking, that's how we praise God. We praise God with our essence, our very being. When we love, when we think good, when we are kind to one another, we glorify Him.